401k savings rates are going up. As Four Non-Blondes once asked, what's going on? I got him.
You got me. That's what you were thinking. Brian, I am so excited about this because this is good news. This is good news. 401k rates are increasing. People are saving more money. This is something that should be celebrated, right? Like this is a net positive for the financial world around us.
I got really excited about this because check this out. We actually have some data here to share. Is that 401k accounts at Vanguard, they're now at 11.7% contribution rates. Now, this does include employer match as well. But here's the cool thing. This is an all-time high since Vanguard has been tracking this. But I got to tell you, before we start celebrating that everybody has found religion on saving and investing, there's actually something structural that's happening behind the scenes that's making this happen.
So you mean to tell me that people haven't just like caught wind that, hey, I've got to control my financial future. I've got to start saving more. I've got to take more control over my future financial self. That's not what's taking place?
Yeah, a few years ago, the tax laws changed where there was this new thing called quacca. You know, it sounds like a duck a little bit, but what it does is it encourages employers to set, instead of like 3% always been kind of the matching percentage. You know, you do 6, you get 50 cents on the dollar, so you get 3% from the employer. They said, hey, if you make the actual contribution, actually I said that wrong. If you did 3%, you get 3%, dollar for dollar. They said, why don't you do auto enrollment at 6%, and we'll give you some additional breaks and some other things. And guess what? Employers have listened. They started setting 6% as the automatic enrollment amount, and it seems to be sticking.
That's exactly right. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal that came out that said, now 6% is like the new standard. It is the place that people are starting on their 401k journey because of these qualified automatic contribution arrangements. So this is kind of a good thing. Employers, now, well, I say it's a good thing. The results are good. Like the outcome is good. The back end is good. Now, I wish that people would take control of their finances and they would start choosing to do this. But absent people starting to do that behavior right, it is nice that the behavior is kind of being forced upon them a little bit.
I think it's so interesting that the opt-out rate, because now with these plans, it went from 3% to now 6% as the auto enrollment. You have to actually choose to opt out. The opt-out rates did not change,
That's right.
even though they doubled the savings rates for all these employees. So obviously, set it and forget it works. Always be buying. This is what we try to convince you to make your wealth journey an automatic journey, and you're going to create a lot of success for yourself.
This is so exciting because what this does is it begins to get people moving in the right direction, where maybe they didn't have the volition of their own to start doing that. They decided, hey, we're going to start moving in the right direction on our 401k journey. There's a few reasons why we love this. The very first one is, you know, the thing that's better than free money? More free money. So if you have a qualified automatic contribution arrangement and you're getting a match, and every year they increase how much is going up to that 6%, if there is employer matching on those contributions up to 6%, every single year you're getting more money of yours going in and then more employer match. It's preventing you from leaving that free money on the table.
And I've kind of already shared this, but it's worth repeating, is that I love that it actually does automate the wealth building process. This is one of those things, you set it, forget it. It also creates, you know, we always talk about we want to make the good habits as easy as possible and the bad habits as hard. Well, if you create automated behavior, it's a twofer. It's doing both. It's going to make the good habit as easy as possible because it's set it and forget it, but it's also going to keep you from all the behavioral traps. You're not going to worry about the political system. You're not going to worry about the economic system because you don't have to worry about all those bad habits of you emotionally making a bad decision impacting you if you set it and forget it and you're not worried about it.
And then the other thing that we love is that we know 80% of millionaires claim that they invest in their company's 401k. For most folks, the very first account that hits 7-figure status is their 401k. So if we can encourage that behavior early and often, we're going to get more people on track to millionaire status. So it is an exciting thing that we're starting to see savings rates increase, even if it's not necessarily because the participants chose to do so.
Now, if we're taking you on a journey, we just celebrated a lot of stuff, but I do have a little bit of cold water. You heard me post when I started this, I shared that Vanguard's own study showed that the savings rate is 11.7% with both the employee as well as the employer contributions, that's still about half of what we think people need to be saving. This is what we would challenge you guys. It's a good step, but there's a part of me that wonders, hey, if we had this auto enrollment at 10% or 12%, would we see the exact same opt-out rate? Because I think a lot of people, especially when you start your journey, when you get your first job, wouldn't it be nice when you come out of college where you already can make $10 and $20, dance and do lots of work for you? Because when you're in college, you're broke, so why not go ahead and set that savings rate higher for yourself, challenge yourself so you get to live your best life without the challenges of kind of letting that lifestyle creep steal your future retirement.
Yeah, we know that one of the most common matching formulas out there exists that if you put in $1, then your employer will match 50 cents. Well, if you're getting a 50% match on a 6% contribution, that's only a 9% total savings rate, which again is nothing to scoff at. It's not bad. It's nothing to be discouraged by, but you don't want to stop there. You want to make sure that that is the first stop on your way to 25%, because at the end of the day, we really want you saving and investing 25% for your future, not just stopping at the 9% that automatically happens inside of your 401k.
So if you ask yourself, what does 25% do for me? We actually have a great deliverable. I'd encourage you to go to moneyguy.com/resources. Now look, I get it. In your 20s, it's somewhat aspirational. I just shared right after you get out of school or you start your first real job, you're not going to have a lot of money, but that's okay. As our chart shows, when we talk about 25%, pretty much anything works great in your 20s. But by the time you're in your 30s, you really need to be at the 25% of your gross income. And then if you're picking this up, maybe you're watching this and you're in your 40s or beyond, it doesn't mean that you've completely missed the train. What it does mean, though, is that more of the responsibility falls on your shoulders. So get serious about that savings and investment rate.
I love it. And if you want to know even a little more, if you're curious, okay, I know that my 401k has an automatic contribution arrangement, but I don't understand all the bells and whistles. I don't really know how my plan works and how I can really use it to maximize my financial life. We actually have out on moneyguy.com an ultimate guide to 401k that you can go check out. So go to moneyguy.com. You can just type in 401k, type in ultimate guide. It will pop right up. Let this be a resource so that you can take command of maybe one of the most powerful tools in your entire investing and wealth building tool belt. Brian, I love that we can share this kind of stuff. I love that we can tell folks when there's exciting stuff going on in the world, when we see things changing that can impact your financial life. But we also love that we can actually speak to things that directly impact your specific financial life. That's why we love answering questions. It's one of our favorite things to do every Tuesday at 10 a.m. So right now we have the team out in the wings collecting your questions. So with that, executive, producer, creative director. I was trying to pull it out.
Is that my new title?
Wait, before you get all fired up, I was told in the planning session that if I could do this show in less than 10 minutes, I get a high five.
You got it right here.
So there's 2 minutes that we just picked up because these guys didn't think I could do it. Here's the other thing that I know, just to give you guys a little behind the scenes, and this is why you tune into Q&A live streams. I'm in the middle of this thing, and my watch is just going crazy.
Okay.
So as soon as you pick up, I look down. It's my wife. She's calling, and I'm like, I'm in the middle of a live stream. Does she not know Tuesdays, 10 a.m.?
If you need to take it,
like, no, we're fine. I'm sure the live stream would take a whole different level if I started answering calls live on air.
Let's pipe this on speaker. Bring it in on speaker. That'd be awesome.
Well, now that we've used up that 2 minutes you got back.
Oh no, they're still running it. I just used a minute of it.
Okay, we do have some great questions filing into the hopper here. So I'm going to kick us off. Jesse had a good follow-up question about 401ks. He says, it's not a great time to increase 401k contributions. I feel like I'm buying into a bubble only to watch the bottom fall out. Agree? Disagree? Want to fight?
I'll fight you on this one. I
figured you would. Go for it.
If you think the market is high right now, wait until you see it 10 years from now. Now, that's not an original quote. I cannot take credit for that. I believe it was Nick Murray that coined that.
Yep.
But it's a great thought to have. Are the markets higher right now than they were at the beginning of the year? Yes. But realistically, when we think about what has happened over the past couple of years, well, 2022 was an official bear market. It was a down market where we saw a greater than 20% loss. And realistically, it's the first extended down period we've seen since the Great Recession, since 2008. I mean, we've had fits and starts. Fourth quarter of 2018 was down, and COVID, obviously, there was a quick downturn, and then it came right back up. 2022 was the first time period that there was an extended down period. Well, we lost money in 2022, and so then we made that money back in 2023. And really, the really positive year in 2023 got us kind of back to where we were when we started 2022. So when you look at the markets in general, where are we in terms of like all-time highs and tracing new highs? We're not a whole lot in a very different place than we were at the very beginning of 2022. And so the question becomes, all right, one, am I buying into a bubble? Is the market overpriced? What's going to happen over the short term? In reality, we don't really know the answer to that. So what matters more about where the market is in its economic cycle is, where are you in your economic cycle? Are you someone who's early on in the accumulation phase, still building, still growing? If that's the case, you really don't care if the market's going up, down, left, right, or sideways, because you should always be buying. If the market's going down, great, you're getting in at lower and lower and lower levels. If the market goes up, great, your past money is working for you. I don't think that you should time your contributions based on what the market is doing today.
We haven't done a show in a while, but every time I hear this type of stuff, I love the human spirit and how behaviorally we think we control so much. Mm-hmm. But we don't have it. If you actually look at what elements of your life you control, it's your savings rate, it's your choice to what you're doing with your next dollar, how you live your life, but all the stuff that happens around us. A lot of us, unless you're a big decision maker, with politics, with economics, it's outside of our control.
Yep.
But yet, we think bubbles. We think that there's so many things. And I bet if I had to pick, I bet Jesse's on the first third of his savings and investment journey, meaning that he is still probably got 20 plus years before he retires. And so the behavior choice, your savings rate and your investment rate is so much more important than even your investment choices in the long term, just because you got to get the ball rolling. You got to start pushing that little pebble down the hill so it can accumulate and build upon itself. And I would challenge Jesse is, if you think that this is a bubble, what are you doing instead? Because, you have several choices. Are you going to consume this extra money and put it in lifestyle? That's going to hurt you in the long term because you're going to get used to this extended lifestyle. Are you going to just put it in cash? We've done so many research and shows on the timing of markets, and we even show people who are great at building this all up in cash, buying at the dead bottom.
The worst investor ever.
They still they get beaten by the people who just consistently buy every month and don't try to think about it, because realize markets make money typically about 8 out of 10 years. And so that, yes, there's going to be periods of volatility, but do you realize, Jesse, as a financial mutant, and maybe you're just discovering your financial mutant, if the market is in a bubble right now, you ought to cheer that as a financial mutant, because especially if you're in that first third of your saving and investment life, every month you're getting a little bit better deal. You're getting a few additional shares because that volatility is actually your friend. There is nothing better. I actually get sad for retirees because they lose that ability to cut the sharp or the point off of how bad markets can be by buying into it every month. You are cutting the sharpness out completely because you're averaging it out. You're buying more shares. So I would encourage you, don't get caught up. I know the news media, remember, they want your eyes, they want your ears, they don't care about your wallet. Do not let them rob you of the time. That is the most powerful component that you have. So just always be buying, set the automatic wealth building journey. Let it start today. And I promise you, yes, maybe it's a bubble, maybe it's not a bubble, but 10, 15 years in the future, you'll be like, what in the world was I worried about? Why did I even waste the mental horsepower on that?
Excellent. Jesse. Thank you for keeping the conversation going. I just changed his name on the fly. I'm sorry.
I started the show with 4 non-blondes.
Buddy, that got me.
So we'll go Jesse, Jesse's girl.
Of course.
Yeah.
I
There
knew
you
that.
go. So let's
Classic.
see if we can do this on every name
Honestly,
today.
I was prepped for it, and you didn't do that because I
Yeah.
was thinking 4 non-blondes got me.
Yep.
Well, thanks, Jesse, for being
Well,
here.
you know, you
Thanks
can
for your
probably see it
question.
in that 10-second countdown.
You
that we
started
sit here.
laughing, and I
well,
was
it's
like,
because it
what's
hit
he-
me. I was like, "What's going on?"
And what's
You
funny
know,
is
and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's
honestly, you
totally
started quietly
4-9.
giggling,
Yeah.
and I was like, "What's he
Yeah,
giggling
I
about?"
chuckled
Something
myself.
just tickled him, and then now I know what it was.
So now you have to pretend you don't know this game is going on, so you can see what we can do with these names.
All right.
Reby.
Well,
She's about to crush
this
us on
next
this
one will be interesting. GE Max 1999 has a question for you.
That's an easy one.
It says,
Yeah, party like
Party like
1999.
1999.
Prince.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
let's
there
do
you
this.
go.
Come
Okay.
on, lay it up.
It says, my wife and I are 25 and 30 and got a car loan outside of the 23-8 rule. We did 5 years instead of 3 years because we did not know the FU and the money guy at the time. The interest rate is 8%. Do you recommend to pay it off as step 3 of the financial order of operations, or should we adapt the payments to end it at the 3-year mark and then continue on to step 4? So how do you handle it when you just learned about this and you haven't followed 23-8?
Yeah, so for those who are maybe hearing this for the first time, when it comes to buying cars, we think you should adhere to 23-8 car buying rule. We want you to put 20% down on the auto purchase. We don't want you to finance for any more than 3 years or 36 months. And your car payment cannot exceed 8% of your monthly gross income. And so if you run afoul of that, the hard thing you have to do is figure, okay, well, how do I get it back inside of that realm? So real easy, like spreadsheet, financial calculator, mathematics here, I would figure out, okay, if I finance it over 5 years, and I know it's supposed to be financed over 3 years, what would my payment need to be for me to pay it off inside of that 36-month window? So that's step 1 that I would figure out. Now, here's where I think it gets a little tough, and I think this is going to be an unpopular opinion and maybe a hot take. If you do that, and then you determine that, oh, wow, that payment that I have over 3 years far exceeds 8% of my gross income, well, then you might have to make some tough decisions. Then you might be in a precarious situation.
Well, there's another element that you could, because you can really get 2 options. You either increase your payments to get it now within check of 23-8, or you could actually, if you have a little extra in your cash reserves, you can go ahead and pay down, figure out what your current payment, which if it is 8% of your gross income, figure out what your 8% of your gross income is to figure out what you need to do in a lump sum to get this thing caught up. It's a little bit of math. We actually have a great car buying calculator.
Yeah,
So
it's
if
great.
you want to play around with the numbers to kind of help you figure out some of this, go to moneyguy.com/resources. You can actually use that portal to kind of figure some of this out. But and there's a few other elements to car buying that I just like to remind people. Because 23-8 is supposed to be your access point to reliable transportation. This is not to get you into that luxury vehicle to impress people who just do not care about your financial life. But you think that they do for some reason when you sign that note that's $700, $800 to $1,000 or more, like a lot of people out there doing in the world now. But the key thing is this needs to be your monthly investments into your Roth, your 401k. Those monthly investments need to exceed that monthly car payment.
Absolutely.
And then if this is a luxury purchase, meaning that if you have anything that's like, BMW, Mercedes, Audi, any of these things that you got some of that German engineering in there, by all means, you need to pay that off same as cash. You can pay it off within a few months. You don't buy luxury goods or luxury vehicles with 23-8.
Now, this may be the case. You may have bought this automobile, and maybe you put down a decent down payment, and you have some equity in it, and you determine, holy cow, I don't have emergency fund. I don't have cash reserves that I can go dump into this thing. And I also, if I try to do this over 3 years, my payment is going to way exceed 8%. You may have to do an assessment and say, okay, is the actual best path forward for me to get out of this automobile? Might I be able to still sell this car and get into something more affordable, more reasonable, more in line with my financial situation? Because what you don't want to do is this 5-year thing that you've now gotten yourself wrapped into, you don't want it to cause you to put your financial life on hold for 5 years. That time is just so valuable. So do a self-assessment, determine where you are and what options are realistically available to you, and then be true to yourself. If you have to make a tough decision and decide, okay, maybe this car is not the right car for me right now.
Yep.
It's not no forever, just no right now.
Well, awesome. GE Max 1999, thank you for your question. We appreciate you being here. I've got another one teed up from Mika. It says, are annuities a safe retirement option?
So we're, in our day job, we're financial advisors. And generally speaking, when we get a question like this, we have a really great answer and response. The answer is it depends. It depends on your unique financial situation and what you are trying to accomplish. It's not uncommon for someone to get to retirement and they get to financial independence and they think, you know what, man, I don't have a pension. The company I work for doesn't have any sort of guaranteed benefit. I'm going to have Social Security, but I might not start drawing that for, 5, 10, 15 years in the future. And I know that I have some like fixed expenses that I really am going to just count on having, whether, groceries, utilities, that sort of thing. It would really help me sleep at night. It would make me feel better. It would give me peace of mind if I knew that I had some guaranteed income structure, some assured income coming into me every single year or every single month. In that situation, for that type of person, an annuity might make sense. So I don't want to completely dispel that annuities have no place in retirement plans, and that's not something you should ever consider. However, I do think that annuities are incredibly profitable for annuity salesmen in a lot of circumstances. And so what happens is they begin recommending these products and recommending these solutions, not only in those small segments where it does make sense, but in wider segments where maybe it does not make sense. Because I think that more people purchase annuity products than actually need the annuity product.
They're sold annuity products.
That's right. They're sold that more than they actually need the annuity product. So I think they have a place in certain retirement plans, but I don't think that I would blanket say, oh, yeah, you should absolutely have an annuities if you're moving into retirement.
By the way, Mika, you killed our name game song game.
I'm
So
racking my brain here.
we'll blame Reby on that, not you. But it is one of those things where I wrote down two big things. First, what are your desire and wishes? I think a lot of people are surprised when they find out for a lot of annuities out there, especially the ones that give you a guaranteed benefit, that once they're executed, if you die prematurely, unless it's written into the contract, because some of them will have a 10-year or they'll have a kickback. It depends on the riders or the way it's structured. But in the raw form, the insurance company keeps your assets because it's a promise to pay you this return while you're alive based upon your life. And maybe you can put a survivor benefit depending upon your choices as well. But a lot of people, so if your desire is to pass this money down to loved ones, sometimes that blows up putting all of the money in the annuities because your desires and wishes are disconnected from the way these products are structured. The second thing you have to ask yourself is, what's your risk? What's your risk appetite? Because look, without a doubt, if you are a person, I have come across these people. It's not the majority of people, but every now and then we'll have somebody come in and we'll talk to them and we find out that they literally think that the stock market, they think that this whole thing that drives the entire economy, businesses and so forth, and the ownership of stocks is completely a scam. Or they're scared to death of any losses whatsoever. Now, full disclosure, what do you think the insurance company's doing with your money? They're putting it into this
same type of thing,
same
that
thing
you would
as
do.
well. But for the people who are very nervous of that, I'm not going to take that away from them, because I have seen those cases, and you have to admit, Bo, there are people that we've said the best thing they can do is just put that money in an annuity.
Protect them from themselves.
Because protect them from themselves. Either they didn't have discipline, or they're just scared, or don't know how things work. So look at your risk profile. If that is you, if I just described you and you don't want to take any risk of volatility, because every year, realize with any type of financial investment, there is potential risk. It's just that whole concept of risk reward. You're getting paid a premium for taking on additional risk. So that's part of the whole deal when you invest the money. I actually, if you asked me and cornered me and say, hey, Brian, tell me the annuities you kind of like or you think are appropriate.
So that's a good point. There are a number of different types of annuities, and the time matters.
There's immediate annuities, there's these variable annuities, there's these equity indexed annuities, there's all types. I like more of the immediate annuities that you see it's kind of structured like a pension. And we even saw some right when interest rates really got to the higher point. They were even offering some bonuses that really made these things for certain people seem very appealing. But That's not what you typically see that's being sold out there. That what you see sold are these variable annuities or equity indexed annuities. And what equity indexed annuities, they sound so good on the brochure, is they say, hey, we're going to give you all the benefits of the stock market, but it's like a ratchet. You can't go down because you don't get the downside. The only way they can give you that is if you go read the fine print, and you'll quickly find out that your participation rate is much lower, meaning because most of your money made in investing is like in those outsized performance years. The years that the S&P 500 makes greater than 20% and you crush it, you're going to love that. Well, if your participation rate with the annuity you did, and they didn't disclose this to you, you're capped out at 7 or 8%. You know, they kept all the extra performance and they only gave you the 7-8%. That hurts you. I mean, it's one of those things. The other thing is you got to look at the fees, because variable annuities, equity index annuities, they're rife with lots of fees and commissions. So just be careful. So we're not against annuities, but I think that it's one of those more complex things that you need to ask a lot of questions. Probably if this is your first rodeo, you don't want to do this alone. You probably want to talk to somebody who doesn't sell insurance to kind of give you guidance behind the scenes. This is why I think it is one of those things where you can take the relationship to the next level. Ask those questions of your fiduciary fee-only financial advisor who doesn't have skin on the commissions of the products being sold, to see if they can help you navigate some of this if some of what I described hits you.
Yeah, Mika's the actual question was, are they a safe retirement option? Some annuities can be incredibly safe, like those fixed immediate annuities, like you said, it's guaranteed. And some can be incredibly aggressive, depending on the underlying investment. So I like what you just said there. Get a second opinion. Make sure you have someone who's giving you solid counsel, and it might not be the person trying to sell you the actual product. I think that's great.
Well, great. Mika, thank you for being here. Thanks for asking the question during the live stream.
Hang on, Reby. There he is.
We didn't have to hang
Top
on.
in the top.
We didn't have to hang on for that.
Okay.
Brian did.
I just figured it would distract her less than you. That's fine. But when you
keep,
call it
gotta
out,
keep this high caliber thing working over here, and that's a distraction.
Right. Okay.
Let's go.
So no song for Mika, I take it.
No. Do y'all have any? I mean, does anybody in the comments have anything? Come on, I'm counting on the audience to fill in when.
Let us know.
You know,
I don't have anything, to be fair. That
we're
one
not
was
the
kind of
Borg,
difficult.
but we are a unified body here. I'm trying to come up with ideas when we're stumped.
All right. The next question is from Jeff. Jeff. He says, how much do you help children transition to adulthood? When they graduate college, do you help with insurance, phone payments, car down payment, etc.? My sons will graduate debt-free with STEM degrees, for some context, which good for them. But what do you think? What advice or thoughts do you have for Jeff?
You know, Jeff, this is actually a wonderful question. So good that we're actually about to create some content around this. Like, what's the right way to do this, and what's the wrong way to do this? To give you sort of like the Cliff Notes idea on this, I think there are some questions you have to answer before you can say how much do you help your children, because it depends a little bit. It depends a little bit on your situation, then it depends a little bit on their situation. If you are in the situation to where you've been saving and you're moving towards financial independence and you've done the things that you are supposed to be doing, and it's looking like you're going to be able to retire and you're going to be able to have the kind of life that you've been saving for, if you want to make a decision like leaving your child on health insurance until age 26, or allowing them to stay on the cell phone bill, or helping them out in other ways, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you trying to help your child is only serving to hurt your financial situation, your financial circumstance, you might want to rethink that. Or, and this is even worse, if what you're doing to help your child is actually inhibiting them from developing the skills necessary to be able to grow and flourish on their own, even if you can do it, you may want to second guess, should I be doing this?
Well, I would, those things, because look, it would be, because we deal with a lot of our young financial advisors stay on their parents' health insurance. It's not uncommon, just with the way cellular services contracts are structured, that the family plans are very effective. Mm-hmm. So it's always, the financial mutant in me is like, don't throw those out. But the big but is that I would use it as a teachable moment. You guys know I'm very philosophical, is that you've got to teach your children to be good with money. And this is a perfect opportunity to where you say, hey, look, we're going to keep you on our health insurance because it's probably, it's more cost effective because I'm already on the family plan and you have a younger sibling. So it's not going to cost you anything. You're not going to do any participation at work. Your mobile phone, same thing. But let's calculate. Let's actually write down how much these two things just saved you. Now, you show me that in your brand new job, I mean, are you funding your Roth IRA?
Love it.
I mean, because this is not too different than when my daughter was 15 and I started giving her a dollar for dollar match when she started her first job to try to prime the pump of good behavior and saving for the future. Because what you don't want to do is not teach your children to be good with money, and then they kind of just, you become a crutch. That's the worst thing that can happen is you don't have those conversations. They don't learn how to become independent financially. And then their best life was actually their childhood. That's sad to me.
It is sad.
And that's something I would encourage every one of you guys, especially you financial mutants that are doing a great job. Make sure you're adding moments of scarcity or at least education in your your kids' life so that they understand the value of what it is to make good financial decisions, what the struggle is to even get to success and wealth, and and how little goes a long way. Don't forget the 3 ingredients to wealth, whereas that discipline and deferred gratification is ingredient number 1. You got it. That's going to create the margin or the money, ingredient number 2, that if you give them enough time to let those assets grow, that's the super secret sauce that they're going to have plenty of because their kids are young adults. Make sure that they're putting and executing all 3 of those key elements. And that way you don't have regrets because, and by the way, if you go read books like Millionaire Next Door, you know, one of the key indicators for success for millionaires is their adult children are actually somewhat successful too and don't require this economic outpatient care for years on years. So you're actually doing yourself a favor and your own success if you teach your children to be good with money.
I love it.
Fantastic. Well, Jeff, really good question. Thanks for asking it. And like they said, be sure to watch our Friday releases over the next several weeks because we have some more in-depth content coming on this very topic. So we get this kind of question a lot. So thanks for bringing it up.
I do want to say one quick thing.
Yeah.
Teaching is not the same thing as withholding or hoarding. I mean, you know what I mean? That's a key element that I think is missed. I don't want you to be rude or cruel to your children, but teach them some accountability and to be good with money.
I was going to say, I actually talk to a lot of young folks who have angst and discomfort around this. They're like, hey, I just graduated college and I'm ready to be on my own. I don't want to stay on my mom and dad's health insurance. I want to pay for my own cell phone bill. I think even that's a little bit of a flaw. Because just like you said, if there's like a family plan or if the health insurance makes sense, there's nothing wrong with you taking advantage of some opportunity that's available to you, so long as that you don't like begin subsidizing other parts of your life. You know what I mean? So long as you use that truly as a head start that it is. I just get frustrated when I see young kids who don't do that simply because of like their own pride trying to like get them out of doing that.
Right, there is a flip side to it.
Back to the conversation of what will this yield? Because there's an incremental decision. If you have savings because you're on the parents' health insurance or family phone plan, is that actually turning into wealth building or is it just turning into consumption? If it goes straight into consumption or a car payment, that's a disaster.
That's fair. So yeah, if you want to stay up to date on these episodes and know when content like this is released, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's a fantastic way to keep up with it. Or go to moneyguy.com and subscribe to our email list because we don't spam you. We just send you our best content each week so you know what's going on. All right, Kevin's question is up next. He says, I'm 28 years old and I'm inheriting $750K in 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Should I buy a home in cash or just invest? I currently have $35K in my Roth and a fully funded emergency fund. Thanks. And then I also said, saw that he put later in the chat, he lives in California and he's renting right now. So obviously real estate is a big, conversation piece in a lot of the areas of California. So yeah, what do you think?
So Kevin, you're obviously in a very unique situation that you're about to have a large windfall of assets come your way at a very young age. $750,000 is a lot of money. And so the question of, okay, well, should I buy a house in cash or should I invest? It's difficult to answer that specifically for you in your unique situation, but here's what we can tell you. When you buy a house, before you decide how you're even going to pay for the house, whether you're going to pay for cash or whether you're going to finance it, one of the things you should do is you should go to moneyguy.com and check out our home buying checklist. So before you make this decision, you want to answer these questions. Okay, am I going to be in this location? Do I feel confident I'll be in this house for the next 5 to 7 years? If the answer to that question is no, then you might not even need to be entertaining home ownership, whether you could pay cash or not. Then you want to make sure, okay, do I have an appropriate down payment? Check. And then if I do finance, will I be able to afford the monthly mortgage payment? Would that be less than 25% of my gross income? So the first step you ought to do is say, okay, does home ownership make sense for me right now before you figure out how you're going to pay for it? Well, then the second thing I think Kevin ought to do is assess, okay, well, where am I right now? And this is what we know. It sounds like he's pretty squarely in somewhere between step 5 and step 6. He's got his fully funded emergency fund in step 4. He's got $35,000 in a Roth. What should he be thinking about? Or maybe in your experience, Brian, when you've had other young folks come into large windfalls, what are some of the guidance we give them into how to handle that well?
First, Kevin, I hope you're scared. Are you scared? If you're not, that's a problem, because this is your mom's spaghetti moment where you can't blow it. I mean, it's serious. I mean, nobody gets these type of opportunities. And if you're not thinking about how heavy this decision is, I think you're missing something, because it is, and I'm so sorry for your loss that's created this, but it is one of those things where you need to take and elevate this to the point that you say, I cannot screw this up, because this is a head start. This is an opportunity. And I think a lot of people will immediately, it's interesting, you say, should I go buy a house? I think a lot of stuff is societally put upon us to say, this is what successful people do. This is the next thing you need to do. Be careful with that. I want you to seriously self-assess, and I love that we have the financial order of operations, even Millionaire Mission. I was about to call it Millionaire Mission. To kind of, if you need to really front end load your knowledge to figure out what is actually your best life. Because this is the type of money coming your way that you can go ahead and start visualizing what you want this life to be. And I know that's hard for somebody who's 28 years of age, because for myself, I thought I was retiring at 50. I had all these assumptions in my brain about what my life was going to look like when I was in my 20s. And it's turned out completely different, but that doesn't mean that you can't make big key decisions right now at age 28 that will set you up. But that's why you've got to figure out, maybe it's a house, but maybe it's also, this is going to be the year you're going to fully fund your 401k at work. This is going to be the year that you put aside maybe a little bit extra in the cash reserves, because you've got a business opportunity or a business venture you had always thought you wanted to start for yourself, and you've done all the right things to prepare for that. I don't know what your answer is, but I'm just saying you need to take the weight of this big, big opportunity and don't blow it. And that's don't just fall into what everybody tells you should do. Because I see this with all big life events. I've shared the story with somebody who was in my Sunday school class, where when her husband prematurely passed away in their 40s, everybody's like, go pay off the house.
That's what you got to do.
You got to go pay off the house. And she came up to me and she's like, once she found out what I did for a living, she's like, please tell your people, make sure that really is the right decision, because everybody was quick to tell me to go pay off the house. And then I didn't have money to pay for, 2 growing boys who are playing sports and still in school and everything else. And that's why I say, and look, for a lot of people, maybe paying off the house was the right decision if you're a brand new widow or something like that, but you got to do the work. Everybody, finance is personal. You got to triage your personal situation. That's what we tried to create with the financial order of operations, so you can kind of figure out what is the life well lived for me, and take it serious enough to actually make that a plan. Don't just do what everybody tells you to do. Actually create a plan that's for you and the life you want to live, and then don't blow it. Do not screw this up by going, and like I said, if you want to start a business venture, make sure you got a really good chance. You did the 3D glasses, you did the dream plan, down to earth plan, the doo-doo plan, because this is one of those things it's a big fork in the road moment, and I just want you to come out on the other side and be able to celebrate the legacy of what somebody has paid it forward to you, versus you squandering it and losing it, because like so many people do that. Y'all have heard me give the stat that 80% of millionaires are first generation. The only way that stat works is if 70% of second generation blow it, 90% of the third generation, it's gone. I don't want that to happen to you, Kevin.
Well, Kevin, That was a great question. Thank you for being here. I feel like you just got some life advice from Brian too there. So hopefully that helps you think through it. Yeah, it's a big decision and we appreciate you being here. We're glad you're listening to the Money Guy Show. That's awesome. All right. Thomas's question is up next.
I feel like that got heavy.
You got
Did
really
you hear? Did you hear
passionate
how
about it. I
quiet the
didn't think
whole
it was
room? We had a
bad.
whole room full of people here, and it got really quiet. And I was like, "Oh crud! I didn't mean to do that."
They've been
it
pretty
was
quiet the whole
It was
time.
kind of
We are
like you
live
just
right
took it
now.
very seriously.
No, but I can
like
sense.
you had a.
I'm intuitively
there was a
can
weight
sense
to
the
it.
energy, and,
Yeah.
but I'm not. I do think it's Kevin can turn this into a blessing. I just hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, are you ready for Thomas's question?
Yes, ma'am.
Bo, can you hum the Thomas the Train theme song?
No, I
Okay,
cannot.
Okay, well then there we go. We don't get to keep going.
Oh man. Okay,
One of the
Thomas
best ones was,
says.
"Hey Mika, you so fine, you blow my mind." That was one that came through the chat earlier. I thought that was good.
Close. Okay, the question is, how should my wife and I go about talking about finances with friends that don't seem to be doing very well with finances? What do you think about that?
Oh, this one's hard, bro. Because listen, look, I'm a financial mutant, but you've got to be careful because nobody wants to feel preached to. Look, I'm just going to tell you, you're going to see this your whole life. I don't know how old Thomas is and their spouse, but you're going to see lots of bad decisions around you. And you kind of just had to grin and bear it. And I think out of a place of love, if you're trying to improve the life, I mean, Bo and I both did this. So this is actually well-worn. I bought I bought Wealthy Barber for every one of my friends. Yep. And I'm hopeful that Millionaire Mission becomes that for a lot of people. Now, I'll leave it to you, Bo. How do you give this? One thing to give it to a college graduate.
Yeah.
It's another thing maybe even as a wedding present. But what do you do if it's just a couple that you're close with and maybe you travel with? How do you do that?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think the very first thing you have to do is you have to assess the relationship. Because I know for me and my wife, we have friend relationships where I can see the other couple making a decision and I'll look and be like, hey, you're a knucklehead. What are you doing? Like that's not wise. You just got a new car last year. Why'd you get this new car right now? And we have a relationship where we can talk that way. We have other friends where we might see that same sort of behavior and we'll have a wonderful dinner and we'll have a wonderful evening. And then as my wife and I are leaving, we'll just say, bless their heart, right? Like that's all you can say. So what you want to be careful of is don't impose your views and your thoughts and your ideals on them unless you have a relationship where that kind of conversation is warranted. Now, if that kind of conversation is warranted and you want to figure out how you can begin having that, what I have found is difficult conversations are most often I am most often able to have difficult conversations through the Socratic method, right? So I'll use my example of the new car. Hey, Brian, I love the new car. Y'all got a new car last year. What happened with that one? Oh, no. Hey, well, I was listening to this Money Guy show the other day. I don't know if you heard of them, moneyguy.com. They're amazing. And they said that like in the first 4 years that you own a car, something like 60% of the value of that car.
You're not getting invited back over.
I'm
I
just
can
saying,
just go ahead and tell you that is.
I get what you're saying though. Is it?
Can you imagine?
If you have that kind of relationship, it has to be conversational.
Bo's gonna
right?
be in the cul-de-sac. Every neighbor is gonna be grilling out hot dogs at this one neighbor's house, and all of a sudden Bo's not gonna be there, and he's gonna be like, "What happened? I wonder what went wrong." And they're like, "Remember that jerk
but
in the
that's
new
why
car?"
you can never have these conversations.
That's what I'm saying.
And I don't think that's true.
You got to kind of know where those conversations
Exactly.
can be had and where those conversations can't be had. I'm saying on the ones where they can, you don't want to lead with, "Hey, dummy, why'd you get that car?" It's more asking, "Oh, hey, man, okay, you're putting a pool in? That's amazing. Interest rates are so high right now.
How are you
able to get a
handling
good
that?
loan
Yeah.
for, like what? Walk me through." And what you do is when you have people walk you through their decision-making process, it very quickly is uncovered that, oh, wow, there maybe wasn't a huge decision-making process. There wasn't like a checklist they went through to make sure that was. And then if you are financially educated, you can kind of speak into that again out of a place of like respect and love and friendship and compassion, but also informative and truthful. I think that's the best way to approach that, as opposed to just being like, "Oh, you're obviously a bad decision maker."
I would encourage, here's another thing I've used in my own life is, now look, what I'd love to know is from our audience is because now it's getting harder for me to do this because, I mean, the show's gotten big enough this whole book, doing so well. I think people were starting to think there's realized something there. But earlier in my life, I always tried to model. I eat my own cooking.
Sure.
Meaning I modeled the life. There was no hypocrisy on how I handled my own finances. And when you live your life differently and you're very principled in it, I have found in my life people would come and ask me questions because they're going to have a general curiosity when they can tell that you live your life differently, that you're actually very principled on how you save and invest. And then it starts getting to the point where, some of those elements spill over and your success is shown in different ways. They'll ask you questions and be prepared to have or look for those questions, but be careful about being preachy on it. Model the really good behavior. And then, because I don't mind sharing. When you tell people you're a financial advisor, they immediately assume you're going to try to sell them a life insurance policy or something else like that. So that's not immediately when people would come to me and start talking. What I had found is like neighbors, we'd be sitting on the back porch watching a sporting event or, drinking our favorite adult beverage or something. And they would say, hey, think about doing this home improvement, What are your thoughts on this? And then there's a way that things will just happen naturally that allows you to kind of share your mindset. And then that's probably going to create the access point or the opportunity to kind of open it up a little bit more. And it's just like, I think of a former neighbor. He still tells me, because when I first met him, he was doing all these individual stocks. And one night when we were on his back porch, I was like, do you really think you're outperforming doing that? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, look at this, look at this
one and this one and this one.
And so then for like the next 3 years, I'd say, you realize the S&P 500 made this last year. And he'd be like, and I was like, did you go see what you made last year? And he's like, well, I made this on he'd always name off 2 or 3 stocks.
This on this stock.
And I say, no, take them all. What did you make on all of your stocks? And then he called me because he's moved away now, but I think I've converted him. I think he does it. He still dabbles because I think those habits are hard to break once you love dabbling in those individual stocks. But he's like, I've pretty much realized the S&P's beating about everything that I've been picking. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to the party. So it's that's the kind of model the behavior. They will notice you're different and they'll come to you. But that also look for opportunities to share resources. Money Guy Show, Millionaire Mission. Obviously, there's lots of other things. Those things will help in this journey as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you approach it with just some curiosity and not just trying to get your point in, I think you can have a cool conversation. I don't think that's a bad thing.
I'm invited to so many cookouts.
Yeah.
Big cookout guy. I mean, just a huge cookout guy.
I cannot see you asking, hey, so you bought a new car? Did you finance it over 3 years?
Oh, yeah,
I will say Bo kind of has a way of being able to do that. That's unique.
Like
it is true. Bo will ask financial questions.
Disarming.
Like I am very clear on friend versus financial. I draw
you
lines.
like to keep a line there
because I don't want to know everything about my friends.
Oh,
I don't.
See?
I just don't.
See, I'm the opposite, so I can.
I do not want to know everything about my
I think
friends.
it depends on
police
the
it.
person,
Like,
relationship.
hey,
Yeah.
let's tighten this up.
Sometimes when friends tell me, I'm like, please don't tell me that. Please
Well,
don't tell me
we'll
that.
go out with another couple, and they'll want to order like some ridiculous drink or some ridiculous. I mean, why do you want that appetite? You're not getting a good bang for your buck on that one. Let's do this, right?
Y'all heard me talk about my 57.
you're
My
for
friend
sure
who
like
does
that.
the $57 glasses of wine.
That's where you and I are different, right? So you're not.
We're going to have a talk next time.
I would have already told him, be like, hey, that's cool if you want your $60 glass of wine.
By the way, here's a little thing. This is a sidebar. Just got back from Europe. Can I tell you how cruel it is? Because I'm not a big wine person, but while I was in Europe, everybody's like, hey, you got to drink a little wine while you're in Europe. Wine is cheap in Europe.
Is it really?
It's really cheap. Like even good wine is cheap. Like when you're in restaurants, the bottles are cheap, the glasses are cheap. And meanwhile, you come back to the States and it's back to
Expensive
a glass
again.
of wine is $20 a glass. And you're like, why is it
Do they make more over
so
there? Is that
cheap
wine?
in Europe and then it's so expensive over here in America? I don't get it. Maybe somebody who's a big wine connoisseur
Do they
can
have
tell
more
us.
vineyards over there, and maybe it's
Oh,
just
for
like
sure,
supply
but
and demand?
it's the quality is better. It's just I don't know. I don't know why prices are so high here in America, or maybe in Nashville at least.
I don't know the answer to that. I'd be curious to know.
That was a sidebar.
Yeah, I don't know either. I have heard that though. I have no.
I did not
I
see
don't know
any
why it is.
$57 glasses of wine when I was in Europe.
That's hilarious.
All right, you ready for the next question?
Yes, ma'am.
Got another one queued up here from PSIL. It says, hey, I'm almost 19 and going through college. I'm saving 6% of my summer earnings, but I'm unable to save during the school year. Should I try to save more despite my friends and family starting to say I'm miserly? So, he's on the edge here. And I feel like you two are the perfect people to speak to this. So what do you have to say?
19, summer job, saving 6%. That is so awesome. I love it. Yeah, you hear us talk about 25%, and that's amazing. But man, you're still in student phase. You haven't even made it to and look, you're 19, so you're an adult, I get that. But you haven't made it to adult phase yet, and you're already practicing the behaviors that are gonna play out so well for you in the future. Don't be upset with yourself. Don't fight yourself, especially if what you're doing is you're working over the summer so that it can pay for the school year. I have a lot of friends who had to do that same thing. That's okay. That's the season of life that you're supposed to be in. Just the fact that you're saving 6% is amazing. If you haven't done this, I want you to go to moneyguy.com and I want you to check out our wealth multiplier tool. And I want you to type in whatever that 6% was, type that in and see what your wealth multiplier at age 19 is and see what just that 6% is going to turn into by the time that you get to 65, and it's going to blow your mind. I think that's awesome. Right now, you are building an excellent habit that will carry you through the rest of your life, so long as you don't let it flip to the dark side.
That's right. And that's a great segue. Is that I want to make sure you're a financial mutant, not a financial miser, because we're maximizers, we're not misers. And so I have a challenge for you. I want you to kind of sit down, pen to paper or spreadsheet, because you're older than me, or younger than me, I should say. So I'm the one using pen and paper. But I want you to take an inventory of your life and really think about, seriously, at 19, are there any key, you have regrets or memories that aren't being made? Are you not getting invited out because everybody thinks you're a complete tightwad? Are you doing any behaviors that are detrimental to your happiness and relationships? That's really the key indicator. If the answer is no, I'm living my best life, I'm happy, I'm making memories, because don't be surprised, even doing good behaviors like saving 6% of your summer earnings, some people are going to scoff at that because it's just so unusual to be disciplined with money. Remember, every year Bankrate comes out with the data of 60, it's right around 60%. I think this year it's 57% or 56%. Close to 60% of Americans can come up with $1,000 for an emergency.
Not PSIL.
So you can quickly see that the majority of Americans walking the streets, they think that any type of savings is probably more than what they're doing. So don't be surprised if you get a little pushback, but you do have to know yourself. It's nothing wrong with getting pushback, but be honest with yourself. If your loved ones and people that you care about the relationships, and even your own happiness factor of building memories by each decade, because you're only going to be a teen for so many years, you're only going to be in your 20s for that 10 years. You don't want to have regrets when you get to your 40s. And that's why I did an interview yesterday, and they brought up Die with Zero. And what that book pushes is that for a lot of successful people, you get to your 40s and 50s and you're like, what was I so worried about when I was younger? The thing I always question is what are the behaviors or the moments that create success? When I look at my own life, I don't know if it was the super discipline in my early 20s or was it taking this risk here. I think they all kind of go together to a life well lived. The balance is somewhere. It's not the extreme of, Die with Zero. And it's not the extreme of Dave telling you not to do anything until all the debt's paid off. I think that the real answer and the maximized answer is right in between. And that's what we've tried to load you up. We give you all the math, but we also give you the mindset. And be honest with yourself, PSIL, and make sure you have that mindset down with the math.
19.
That's great.
That's
it's
awesome.
exciting.
That's super awesome.
Well, we appreciate you being here all the more because you're honestly starting off it's a very exciting place to be. And so we're glad that you're here and can start having these conversations. And hopefully we can just help you navigate your financial journey.
Beast mode.
Tell all your friends, all your college buddies, send them a link to this show that we answered your question, all your family. Because, man, if more 19-year-olds acted this way, it would change our entire country.
Seriously, though, go check out that wealth multiplier calculator, because that's actually a great conversation piece potentially too, especially for people at your age, because the numbers get
I don't
pretty
mind
exciting.
sharing. My 20-year-old daughter, helping us out with some things this summer. She came home. She goes, "Man, that wealth multiplier tool, it had me think." She was like, "It actually had me thinking
Actually,
about
if you
some
caught
stuff."
it, she made the graphic that just popped up a few minutes ago, and that's how, because we
Yeah.
tasked her
She
with like
came
making
home
the
telling me
animation,
that
and
thing
then she
hits,
was like,
and I was like, "Yeah, that's
she was
why
like, that
that's
was
why we
actually pretty
create
cool.
these tools for people to go play with these things, so you can kind of figure out how valuable your money can be."
"Yeah,
Young
great
people
example."
still say it slaps, or is that like 20? Was that a couple years ago? Is that one passed? Passed. Okay. Well,
think
all
it's
the young
passed.
people in the room will tell me that passed. All right.
Well, what are they gonna say? You're their boss.
Good to know. No,
No, they
you
were
thought they were lying to
honest.
me, like, no, you're still cool. No, they're like, nah.
We need the honesty.
Matt will tell you. What did Matt say?
Oh, Matt,
Matt
look
will
at
shoot you
that face.
straight. I always take the word of Matt.
Oh, buddy.
Also, when's the last time you used pen and paper, Brian? You were like, "Well, I'm the old man. I use pen and paper, not Excel."
Actually, on
I'm
that
like,
interview
"What?"
yesterday, because my Remarkable wasn't working,
Oh,
if you
that's
remember.
true.
So I was like,
forgot.
"Quick, you came."
I
I was like,
printed the
"What are we
paper.
going to do?" And you're like, "I'll print it out." And I was like,
Okay,
"Great
I mean-
answer." Why did I think of that? Because this thing, I was like, "I'm
I mean,
helpless. I don't know
generally
how I'm going to
speaking,
answer
for
questions."
like planning purposes, you just made me laugh. All right. Okay, we've got a question from Noah coming up next. It says, "My wife and I are 25 and we are on step 5 of the financial order of operations, maxing out our Roth IRA, which currently holds $20K, which is awesome. We have not yet invested in our HSA. Instead, extra savings are going into a high-yield savings account right now. We hope to refinance our mortgage and reduce our monthly payment so that my wife can stay at home full-time. Is this a bad plan? Would it be better to prioritize our investments?"
By the way, can we take a moment? I'll let you jump into the heavy stuff, but Noah, 25,
Yeah.
with a wife, already on step 5, meaning he's doing the Roth IRA. He's already got a fully funded emergency reserves, and they're even putting a little bit extra in the high yield savings account. And then he throws this little sleeper in, and we're hoping to refinance our house. He's like, you're the contrarian to everything we see in all the
awesome.
news articles and everything else. Noah, you're living your best life, and
He's
I
following the
just want to
foo.
give you some praise before I let Bo do the heavy lift.
I love a lot of what you were saying, Noah. That's awesome. First, let me speak to HSAs. We love them. We love them. When you say that you're in step 5, you're doing your Roth IRA. If there were additional funds available for investing, we think that HSAs are an amazing tool to use because they are triple tax advantage. You get a tax deduction on the front end. You can then invest those dollars to grow tax deferred. And then if you use it for qualified medical expenses or you reimburse yourself for past qualified medical expenses, they are completely tax free. So yes, we love HSAs. Does that mean that's what you should do? Unclear at this point. Let me tell you why.
He did give an indicator, though.
Well, he said that his wife's about to stay home. He said his wife is about to change. Anytime you go through like a major life circumstance. Now, if you're in step 5, I'm going to assume that you have a fully funded emergency reserve. Step 4 is complete. You've got 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Even considering that, if you are going through a big life change and your wife is going to be staying home and your income is going to drop, I am of the opinion this is one of those unique seasons in life where it's okay to be a little cash heavy. It's okay to be a little liquidity heavy because right now you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what other expenses you might incur or how that new budget might feel when the income goes down. So as much as we love HSAs, when you do think about, man, major life change, maybe I should begin to think about storing up some additional cash inside that emergency bucket. And then if something does happen, if rates do fall and you are able to refinance your mortgage, and in refinancing your mortgage because of the interest savings and you keep it on the same timeline, your monthly payment drops, then okay, great. Maybe that's a great time to begin then funding the HSA and you make up for lost time and you can do that. I don't think it's crazy to have cash on his side right now, given this stuff.
Oh, for sure. But I'm talking about health savings accounts. There is nothing wrong. I think a lot of people think that you're actually hurting your employer when you reach open enrollment and you choose the Cadillac plan that has just like co-pays and is super great but doesn't qualify for health savings account, or you make the decision of doing the high deductible health plan, which puts more of it on your shoulders, but then you get to that tax deduction and the triple tax advantage and all the other great things we love that make it part of step 5 with the health savings account. There is nothing wrong with being strategic with your choice, with your health insurance, with your employer. We have a great planner here who is for sure a financial mutant. And when I saw their choice on their health insurance earlier in the year, I was like, I wonder if they're doing some family planning, because it was just unique to see this financial mutant go from high deductible health plan, loading up their retirement plan, to all of a sudden they switched to the Cadillac health insurance. And I was like,
kind of makes you say,
things that make you go, And sure enough, because now we're halfway through the year and it has been shared with everybody at the firm that they are a growing family, I think it's brilliant. And that's what I would encourage you, Noah. If you're obviously fast tracking a lot of good decision making, you're also doing a lot of life very quickly. There's nothing wrong with being opportunistic with your choices on your health insurance. So if it lines up with your family planning, and the health insurance choices you have, nothing wrong with the HSA, but also don't look past that Cadillac plan if your employer offers that, because maybe that works for you in this season. Then you can quickly jump right back into the high yield, the health savings account and the high deductible health plan. A lot of H's there the very next year.
We'll love it. Noah, thank you for your question. Sounds like you've got a lot of exciting stuff ahead of you and you're doing great. So thanks for being here. We hope we can help you along your financial journey. Next question is from 3 Pilot. It says, increasing the 401k contribution sounds nice until you have a lean month and don't have a good way of getting that money back, especially when my pay varies. How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Because we love the 401k, but sounds like he has a little bit of a unique situation.
I'll give you the very quick answer, and Brian, I'm sure you'll elaborate on it. The way that the financial order of operations is, Brian, when you hold the thing up, we have that financial. If you go to moneyguide.com/resource, you can download your free copy. The way that it's structured is to factor in this exact thought process. Most 401k plans will allow you to change your deferral elections per pay period, or if not per pay period, per month or per quarter. So you need to understand when you can change yours. But let's assume for the moment.
Your payroll person will hate you for that, though.
Okay, you don't want to change it a lot, but you can.
Payroll person.
I run payroll.
So let's say that you do this and you're like, okay, I want to increase my 401k. I heard the guy say that sounds like a great idea. I want to be saving more. Okay, great. I'm going to change it. But then I have a lean month, or maybe I have a few lean months. I'm like, man, you know what? I really need to decrease that. If you've been following the financial order of operations and you are increasing your 401k contributions because you are in step 6 of the financial order of operations, one of the things that tells me is that you have a fully funded emergency reserve. You have a step 4 that has 3 to 6 months of living expenses in there. Well, if you have overcommitted to the 401k and it's causing you to be a little lean, there's nothing wrong with dropping your 401k percentage back down, and then in the interim, using your emergency fund to begin subsidizing. So I would not let that be a crutch to prevent me from continuing to save. That's why the emergency fund is there. And then if you stay lean, you drop your 401k contribution back down, you build up your emergency fund again, and then you're back to the same place that you started. I would rather you do that than say, okay, I'm not going to increase. 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 Because what happens when we approach our finances that way is 6 months go by, and then a year, and then 2 years, and 3, and all of a sudden we get 3 or 4 years in the future, and we never actually increased our 401k contribution. So I would rather, if you're following the FOO, I would rather see you stretch it, and you just may surprise yourself that, oh wow, I did it. I was able to make it work. I don't even miss that money anymore, and your future self will be better off because of that.
Well, I immediately, in my head, I saw a visual of 2 different things. I saw a traditional employee who gets paid the same compensation and maybe gets a year-end bonus or something like that. For those people, I do want you to squeeze on how much you're putting into your 401k, and then the catch-all, kind of like what you shared, is your emergency reserves, because you have a month where maybe your property taxes were due, or your Christmas was a bigger season this year on gifts for family members, that it kind of puts you in a bind. That's where the emergency reserves is hopefully going to be that bridge account. But based upon the way you asked the question, 3 Pilot, is that you might be in a variable income structure too. And it's not uncommon if you are, say, like you're on commissions, or you have bonuses that are multiple times a year that really make up over half of your income. That is a different element altogether. And that's why I always tell people, when you're structuring, you have your two components of your income. You have your fixed income, and then you have your variable component, those bonuses. Maybe set your savings rate on the fixed component on something that's a kind of a conservative assumption that you can make and still pay your bills even in those tight months. But then a larger portion of those bonuses, the variable comp that comes in, is going to get allocated towards saving and investment. That's still dollar cost averaging. That's still, always be buying, even if it's not on a monthly basis, because if it's happening quarterly or annually, that's still systematic. And here's what and this is why I know this system works and it's available, is like most of your 401k providers, they allow you to break your income into those two different components. You have your normal salary component, then you have your bonuses and so forth. You can put different savings rates on those different elements of your compensation. So that way you don't get yourself in this squeeze of a pickle because you have some variability in your compensation. It's just create a plan that actually reflects your life. But then I do want you to practice forced scarcity. And every time you get pay raises or you have big things happening in your life, squeeze yourself a little bit, challenge yourself. One of the most fulfilling things I have as a financial planner is the number of millionaires I feel like I've helped create, because they had their savings rates set up at like 6, 8, 10%. And I was like, hey, things felt like last year when I reviewed your tax return, things are a little bit better, your income was up. Why don't we increase that automatic investment just a little bit more so that you just don't put all of that into the consumption of lifestyle or increasing your lifestyle? And a lot of times the clients will be like, yeah, I could probably do $300 more a month. And when they do that, you look back 10 years later and you go, man, that was the extra secret sauce that kind of nudged them and really amped up their wealth building journey. Do that for yourself. Challenge yourself so that you are always on that walk up the mountain and building wealth more and more. And so it actually, at some point in the future, will get big enough, hit critical mass, the bowling point, if you will, so you actually don't have to work as hard with your brain, your back, your hands, because your money will actually be doing all the heavy lifting.
Love it.
That's awesome. Well, 3 Pilot, thank you for the question. We just really appreciate you being here and being willing and wanting to have these conversations with us and with everybody here in the chat and watching this video back. So just a huge thank you to all of you. We love creating this content and answering your questions because our whole goal is just to help you simplify and think through your financial situation and your wealth building journey so that you can focus on what really matters. That's what it's all about. And we don't let it stop here on the live stream. While we'll be back every Tuesday at 10 a.m. live streaming, answering your questions. moneyguy.com/resources has tons of free information, calculators, downloads that just continue these conversations. We called out financial order of operations a lot today, and that wealth multiplier calculator. Fantastic places to start if you're newish to the Money Guy. So go to moneyguy.com/resources to cash in on that free stuff. I mean, why not? So thanks for being here, and we'll be back next Tuesday.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. The way Reby was laying that out, it does remind me that abundance is also about mindset. It's not just the money. It's not just the math. So make sure you're not skipping that. Make sure you're working on the good behaviors, making those good habits as easy as possible and those bad habits as hard as possible. And we're going to keep bringing you great information. I'm your host, Brian Preston, Mr. Bo Hansen, Money Guy team, out.